going on, guys? This video is going to be focusing on the Visual Studio emulator for Android. The last few months, Visual Studio, really with Visual Studio 2015, Microsoft has really taken a lot of major steps towards the cross-platform open source world, and the Android emulator is an example of that. So what's really cool about this emulator is not only is it, from what I can see, really snappy, a really great emulator to use, but it doesn't just integrate with Visual Studio, although it does that well. It's also can be for the native Android developer as well. So it doesn't really have anything so much to do with Microsoft as far as they just created it and said we integrated it with Visual Studio, but hey, if you want to use it for other stuff, go right ahead. And that's really cool. So this is why I'm kind of gonna do a little video just for this emulator. I may be using it in my tutorials with Xamarin and possibly even some future stuff as well. And if so, I probably will. I haven't used it too much. I've used it only a little bit for a couple hours, and so far what I see, I do like it. But I probably will be using it more, so I may have some more I guess opinions for it later on, and I'll make sure that I do point those out as I go. But first, let's go ahead and I'll point you to the link where to get it. So what I did was I searched Google for Visual Studio Emulator for Android. The first link is the one I wanted, and here it is. So Microsoft did package it, I believe, with Visual Studio 2015, and you can install it, and it integrates well. However, it isn't just packaged with Visual Studio, so you can actually download the emulator as a standalone download and just start developing with it, whether you have Visual Studio or not. So once you click on this link, you'll begin to download this file right here. All right, and let's go ahead and click on that, see how it looks. And what it says is Visual Studio, to close it, and it will reduce the chance of computer restart. Of course, like a good boy, I closed all my Visual Studio instances when I installed it, and I still needed to restart my computer. So I don't know if it matters so much if that's all you're trying to avoid, but just to be safe, I would close out all instances, but very likely you'll probably have to restart your computer even though. So once you do that, you basically just install it. It's pretty trivial. It does a lot for you, and I'm not going to do it. I already do have it installed, but once you do retry or continue on, the installation is seamless. So once you do have it installed, let's go ahead and close this out. You should be able to find it. I have it over here on pinned to my start menu, but you should be able to do like Visual Studio or something and search for it. And what it will bring up is a sort of dashboard or main menu of the emulator for Android. And here's where it's really exciting to see this is here's all of the emulators that we have available to us. I mean, different sizes, different densities, different APIs. It tells you the emulator, what kind of device it is similar to a physical device. So this is really, really awesome. And by default, I believe it comes, for me at least, it comes with a 7-inch KitKat and a 5-inch KitKat, both with, this one has a higher density than this one. So, and then these are the phones, the physical phones that it is similar to. And if you hit this drop down, it'll show you a few more specs about the emulator, such as resolution and CPU count and the RAM. So this is really cool. This kind of shows us that we have a lot of emulators at our disposal. So let's go ahead and run this. And from what I can see, it does launch pretty well, and it's pretty snappy. I do want to mention though, I do think it's worth mentioning that I do have an SSD installed on my computer, and that could be a reason why if you don't, then if it takes a little longer, that may be the reason. But for me, it seems to be about 30 seconds until it's fully functional, since when you hit the start button and until it'll start. And at the point once it starts, it's pretty much ready to go. So as you can see here in a few seconds that it will start up, and here we go. So that probably was even less than 30 seconds, And to be fair, I guess I did have it started up before. Maybe there were some things that were cached. But once you have it going, it's very snappy, very fluid, and really easy, and just nice to use. All right, so let's go ahead and start checking out some features of this emulator. Go ahead and minimize this. So the first thing you may notice is some of these buttons right here. And the first thing I notice is this gesture multi-touch. And all that is what this allows you to do is, let's see, gotta get some of this stuff out of the way. And what this does is allow you to actually emulate the pinch to zoom or zoom out. And that's all that does. So you can turn that off and on. You can rotate the orientation of the device. And you can fit it to the screen, and this is to the actual screen of your computer, and seems to be pretty good about right here. So I like it to be pretty large, and that way I can see everything I'm doing. All right, so what's really cool is when you get into this this chevron arrow and you click on it, and it'll give you all these other things that you can actually emulate with the device. So the first thing that I saw was shake, and I believe what this is for is if you are, this will emulate the shaking of the device, see the X, Y, and Z coordinate. And if you are, I would imagine that's helpful if you are developing an application in which you want to listen for a shake or something, this will actually emulate it for you. And then you can change the orientation here as well. Then this part is for the location emulation. So this will be great for like Google Maps or any sort of GPSing that you're doing with your application. You can actually come into here and give it a physical location on your emulator. So you can come into here and plot points, and there you have it. So it'll just you can just kind of come over here and just start plotting some points, and then this will actually emulate where the device is, and then that will be really helpful to be able to do that with a emulator. So I can see that would be really good with like Google Maps or just really anything you need the location of the device, places or whatever. And I thought this was pretty neat. This is a battery configuration to where you can actually change whether it is charging or not. Notice the little bolt that indicates whether it's charging or not, that you're probably very used to. And here you can change the actual battery level of the emulator. So if you write an application, once again, to be able to emulate, maybe you want to do something or write a service that's going to do something on a particular, whether it's charging or not, whether it's low, under 20%, over, this would be a good way to emulate that. And what I thought was pretty neat was you can actually kill the device, okay? And just so that I can show you, you can actually bring it down here, and it should die once you hit 0. Yep, there it goes. So if you hit 0 and it is not charging, the emulator will die. And hey, that's accurate, right? So kind of annoying if you didn't know about it, but you got to say that, you got to give it that it is accurate. So cool, I'll take it. So let me go ahead and relaunch this thing, and we'll continue on with the demonstration. So I could have told you, and you could have tried yourself, but just in case you didn't believe me, I wanted to make sure that you knew I wasn't lying to you guys, and I wanted to kill the app through the battery emulation. But all right, so let's go ahead and minimize this, and then we'll look at the rest of the stuff that we can do with this. Let's open this back up. All right, so screenshot, you can capture screenshots. It's all real time, save it. Camera, and so the camera, the animation, the front and the back camera are set to animation. And what that means is if you come into the actual camera application, you can see that it's playing an animation. Cool. And the front camera, it's playing an animation. Cool. So that's what's going on there. And the file, you can actually point it to an actual image or something, and then that will you can capture that image, and then that becomes your image in the gallery. So you can give it a static picture and then capture that. So that's pretty cool. And then also what's really neat is you can hook it up to a webcam. The webcam on your computer, you can actually hook it up to that live, and then it will show you or whatever, and you can take pictures of yourself through the emulator. So that's really neat. Once again, really cool for a application developing that uses the camera. You don't have any constraints on it. It seems to be doing. It'll let you do anything that a physical device will do with a few tweaks. So the SD card, this is pretty neat. What it does is it allows you to mount a SD card virtually with a directory on your computer. So if I come into here and I do no folder, blah blah blah, and I browse, so this will actually be able to, I can come into here and I can see that, okay, cool, my SD card now points to this directory. So that's pretty neat. I can see that have to be useful when you want to maybe put some pictures and you want your application to be able to pull pictures from this SD card or whatever, and an external SD card. Most phones have it nowadays. Some don't, but a lot of them do. So this is a really cool way to be able to emulate that through your desktop. All right, so the next thing, this is what I thought was really neat. Really excited about this one. I can see how this can be really useful. So you can have the Wi-Fi on, and notice that shows it right here, or you can turn on cellular data. Now, the cellular data is pretty neat because this varies a lot, of course, through where you are, through phones, through services, through carriers. So, but you want your app to be able to work well, at least in most cases, whether the signal is good, poor, or whatnot. If your app's doing a lot of like data intensive stuff, maybe reaching out to a database and grabbing some stuff, uploading, downloading, chatting, whatever it may be, data is very, very important. And it's hard to know if your application is going to work well if you're just at home with your Wi-Fi on, or where you are, maybe you have some great 4G and you're getting a lot of bandwidth up and down. But what you can do is you can actually emulate 3G or even 4G and emulate a poor connection. And notice when you do that, your bandwidth for your download and upload both degrade, and then you can even come down to a TG or 2G to really get some bad streaming. And I don't know if that will work really with most apps nowadays, but you get the idea. And you come into here, good, and you can kind of then see maybe you want to do some things differently. You want to tweak some things to make your data and make your application more network aware, based on not just always assuming that you're going to have your users are going to have the best signal possible, which is really the case when you're developing applications that are doing this. So thought this was really neat. And this is actually something that you can't do with your physical device. And maybe there's an app or something you can't do that. But a lot of this stuff is emulating stuff that you can only do on a physical device, and then now you can emulate it on a virtual. But what I thought was cool was this was really neat because this is something that you can't do on a physical device. And so now the emulator is not only a substitute for a physical device, but maybe a first choice for some developers. Because I can imagine that I come in here and do that as well, and see how my application works when the data is poor, and see if I need to tweak anything to make it a little better. So this is really cool. These are the things that you can work with inside the emulator. Okay, so the last thing, but one of the main things I want to show you guys is installing is really trivial, but I want to show you how to get Google Play services installed on the emulator. So the emulators do not come with Google Play services installed by default. And more than likely, if you're going to want to do any kind of development with different applications or Google Play services like Google Maps, Places, Google Plus, or anything like that, you're going to want Google Play services. Or even if you want to download apps, you're going to need the Google Play Store, right? So how to do that? Well, there's a drag and drop feature that the Visual Studio emulator has. It even says it right here. Yeah. Work your own way, so you can install APKs via drag and drop. Okay, so that's pretty neat. Let's go ahead and give that a shot right now. And where you can go and come and get the Google Play Services APK is teamandroid.com/gapps. And you want to make sure, of course, you get the right Google Play Services APK based on your API that you're running. So this one, of course, is running, as we saw, KitKat. So I will download KitKat. From here, it's all pointing to a mirror, and you want to click on this one to download the zip file for KitKat. So once you do that, I have it right here. And I actually don't have Google Play Services installed in this emulator because I wanted to show you a fresh install. Come over here and drag it and drop it. It'll ask you if you want to install and shut down, or what you want to do. Click install and shut down. Let it do its thing, and it will begin installing. So the emulator does shut down. From my experience, it doesn't restart for you. You're gonna have to come back over here into the menu and actually restart it yourself. No problem. And there is one thing that I did see. I didn't have this problem, but I did see that a lot of people were having this problem. I checked on Stack Overflow, and a lot of people were saying that the drag and drop feature wasn't working for them, and they had to open up, I believe, ADB and run some commands through there. And although that is possible, if it isn't working, it's very likely that you don't have your SDK, your Android SDK path mapped correctly, and there's problems that can happen outside of Google Play Services that are something that you're not going to want to happen. So I'll show you how to fix that just in case, or if you want to just check to make sure that it was mapped properly, I'll show you how to do that. So the first thing that I see is this little warning sign that shows that I have not backed up my device. That's actually a good sign because that means that Google Play Services is installed, and I can come over here in the Play Store. It'll ask me for an account, which I'm not going to give it one, but if I can set up an account, I can have it backed up, I can start downloading apps and all that good stuff that Google Play Services now allows. So Google Play Services is now installed on this emulator. So as you can see, that was pretty painless, right? I mean, I just drag and dropped it, clicked a button, and that was it. So hopefully it remains that way with a lot of APKs that I want to install. But Play Store now gives you, a wide variety of apps that you can download. So most of the stuff is going to come from here. I know it is for me, but if you want to install third-party APKs, you should be able to also drag and drop those as well. So now that we have Google Play Services installed, let me go ahead and make sure. Let's go ahead and make sure that our path is mapped correctly. And then, like I said, this is if your emulator isn't letting you drag and drop or is acting kind of funny, I suggest to come into here. So what you want to do is do a regedit, and you want to come into. Go ahead and expand this out. You want to come into local machine, software, WoW6432 node, Android SDK tools, and then you'll see there is a path. And what you want to do is you want to right click that, modify. And what this should be, guys, is the path to your Android SDK, your root folder of the Android SDK. So this is my Android SDK. This is where Visual Studio Xamarin looks. This is where Android Studio looks. So you want it to also look here as well. So I know some people, I guess by default, maybe it didn't know exactly where it was, or something was wrong. It did not know where your SDK was. So make sure you go ahead and install that. And what I believe that it's doing is it's looking for your SDK, your tools, and what SDKs you have installed. And because I have 19 Lollipop, I have KitKat, I have Marshmallow, that is why it knows it's able to download Marshmallow and Lollipop and KitKat and all of these. Okay, so I believe that's why if you want to get more to download maybe some older versions, try downloading some older versions on your SDK. Make sure this is mapped correctly, and then that may be a way to get it. I'm not too sure on that, but I believe I do see correlation on that. So I believe that's probably where it's getting all of this stuff from. It's knowing that you can download this stuff because it knows where your SDK is and what you have downloaded on it. All right. So if that I'm wrong, though, correct me if I'm wrong. But hopefully that's some helpful insight. So we have that all squared away. Sounds good. what we can do now is take a look at the integration of the emulator. So I have the emulator running, and as soon as I installed it and restarted Visual Studio and all that, I had a Xamarin project up. I was able to come into here and it knew about my emulator. So it knows about my 5-inch KitKat, my 7-inch KitKat. So it knows about those and integrates well. All I gotta do is hit start and it will pop up and play. So it does integrate well, but that's not too surprising. It should, right? Because this is Microsoft's product. But what I thought was really neat was the fact that how it integrates well with Android Studio. Okay, so let me go ahead and close out Android Studio and restart it. So Android Studio, as many of you guys probably know, is the premier way to develop for Android as of right now, and it is maintained and developed by Google from the IDE, JetBrains IDE built on top of that. This is how to do native Android development with Java. All right, so if we go ahead and run this from Android Studio, this sample app based on the design library, you can see that the Android Studio recognizes that there is a device that's hooked up to ADB that is running. So I will click the emulator, okay, and let's go ahead and accept that. That's Google Play Services stuff, I believe. So here we go. So here is our app that is running from Android Studio. So this is a native app built with Java, and here it is on the Visual Studio Android emulator. As you can see, it's working as expected. And cool, awesome. So there you go, guys. That's the quick overview of the Visual Studio Android emulator. I'm hoping that if you haven't downloaded it yet, you will, or maybe you have some more insight now based on this video of what its potential is, and if you are intrigued with it, I suggest to give it a shot and leave your comments below if you have any suggestions or opinions on it. Like I said, I've only been working with it for a couple hours now. I'll probably use it in a few of my tutorials just to kind of see, and if I like it, I'll continue to use it. And yeah, so there it is. Thanks for watching, guys.